So, a few days ago, this happened.
We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about that. Alright, so how's it going, everyone? That's rhetorical. You guys can't actually respond to me in the middle of the video. I mean, there's the comment section, but before that entire conversation gets weird, if you're going down there to say hi, but you haven't already subscribed, why not go ahead and do so? If you end up enjoying this video, please go ahead and hit the like button, share with your friends, and maybe drop by on Patreon if you want to see the rewards that we have over there. You can check out my Teespring, or potentially get some more sorted merchandise by going to my affiliate. Use coupon code Suris, and that gives you a discount. All the plugs out of the way? Good. That leads us to the fan art section. First, we have a Valkyrie Suris by Disco Scone, a Rule 33 Suris by Gay Ace, and then a furry Suris based off of Red 13 by Safwolf. I want to go ahead and thank the talented artists that send their work in, as it's still surreal to think that I live in a world where I get fan art. Anywho, let's get into the clip that I referenced at the beginning of the video, and from there, we're gonna have a chat.
We're gonna be here for much longer because of the climate crisis. We only have a few months left.
Alrighty, so this hysterical woman in the audience is going to say some pretty weird stuff soon. Before I get into that, though, I want to go ahead and point out that Fox News, of all places, has reported on this, and at least at the time of me making my video, they haven't pulled it, nor have they released an update on this particular article, which simply spout the brute facts of the encounter, which will be important here in a minute.
I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies.
Now, I'm an atheist, and I enjoy the eating babies joke as much as the next person, but here's the thing. Nobody actually takes that seriously, and for the small constituent that do, seriously, get over yourself. It's called dark humor. People can do it. But what we have here appears to be somebody legitimately arguing for this proposal. Let's continue.
We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution.
All right, and then we get to the phrase bomb Russia, because apparently that would be the answer here. Let's completely ignore the fact that if you were to attempt to wipe out the entire population of Russia with bombs, that would require a nuclear solution, and the end result of that would be infinitely more catastrophic for the climate going forward. But trust me, this is going somewhere. If you know where this is going, then please don't type it out in the comment section yet. Please wait till the end of the video.
So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. No, thank you. We'll go ahead.
Okay.
No, we'll go ahead. It's so no. Yeah, no. Thank you. So I think so one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present.
Which is true. I briefly went over some of the data regarding climate change during the live stream where I tackled Computing Forever and a couple of other things. And yeah, we do have an issue. But the Computing Forever video was prompted by Greta's announcement to the United Nations that the last generation has failed her. The Federalist did a piece on this, and Ocean Keltoy did a brilliant response to it. You can find it mirrored on my channel, and you can find it right at the source on his channel. Shout out to Ocean. I bring up the Greta incident because that seems to be one of the things that's caused a lot of people on the right wing to immediately jump on trolling people on the left about climate change. And now that I've uttered those words, you probably know where I'm going, especially if you already know the information regarding this particular incident. I don't need to show more of the video itself, because we've certainly seen enough of it for you to make a judgment call on the woman's actions. So let's go over the facts. We know that this was a town hall meeting, and we know that AOC was the speaker at this particular meeting in this instance. We know that this very impassioned speaker stood up in order to get her question heard by AOC, someone who, regardless of your opinion of her, does in fact get trolled by the right quite a lot. So if there was anybody that this was going to happen to, it was her, which means that of course what I'm saying is that AOC was being trolled here. Now I'm sure there's at least one person in my audience who thinks that the woman who was yelling at AOC was at least somewhat genuine, but that can't be further from the case. Now it may sound somewhat conspiratorial on my part, but there is actually a pro-Trump conspiracy group called LaRouche PAC, and this right-wing organization has since claimed that they are responsible for planting this woman at the town hall meeting in which AOC was present. But why would a pro-Trump group like so do something like this? Well, the first thing is that they believe climate change is a hoax, so making a climate change advocate look like a fool in front of a camera for a viral video is certainly one way to get public opinion on climate change to shift more towards a right-wing position. After all, there's a lot of money in the oil industry, and we wouldn't want to lose any of that funding, especially not in favor of other greener styles of energy, especially considering that the beginning of Trump's campaign began with this weird rhetoric around green coal.
Gonna have clean coal. Really clean coal.
Saying that clean coal would be used in the industry going forward in order to prevent any catastrophic effects on the environment. This would obviously put Trump supporters in a weird rhetorical position, since he said that he was going to be trying to shoot for clean coal, which is a thing that doesn't exist, which is something that you would only have to try to shoot for if the public perception was that the climate was in fact changing for the negative, and that we humans were having some effect on it, and that effect was linked to coal, and the smog and CO2 that comes as a result of it. It's just kind of a weird situation where if you truly didn't believe that there was some effect on the environment, there would be no need to support Trump even attempting to do that, unless of course most Trump supporters are just people who nod their heads at anything he says, which I suspect to be the case. Anywho, back to LaRouche PAC. They've admitted to the plant, and in so doing they've created a pretty public media incident involving climate change and the Democratic representative, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This of course led to Trump's son and himself commenting on AOC being a whack job, and instead of doing even a modicum of due diligence and research, instead rode the wave of media outrage, because that's what you would do if you were a set of garbage individuals. Instead of taking even a little bit of time to see what the actual situation was, instead you decided to ride the knee-jerk reactions. And given the amount of likes on this post, there's at least 109,000 people that think the same thing. And you'd think that the sitting president of the United States shouldn't be allowed to go into the defamatory category quite so hard, but what are you gonna do? This is the country that I live in. I didn't want to talk about politics when I started this channel, but I nonetheless found myself doing so. Here we are. And of course we have known Trump sycophant Saladino arguing that George Orwell's 1984 warned of AOC, because of course he's arguing that. This shows a really fundamental misunderstanding of George Orwell's works. I guess that's why there are some people on the right wing that can argue that everything's equal for everyone, whilst at the same time creating a reality where some people are more equal than others, and then they unironically cite Orwell as an inspiration. Maybe they should just go back to the Animal Farm, I don't know. Anywho, that silliness out of the way, let's go ahead and look at LaRouche PAC and look at some of their history. We've obviously shown a little bit of the crowd, who they are attempting to pander to with these media outrages that they staged. So what about the organization itself? Well, it was founded by a guy named Lyndon LaRouche, and he attempted to run for president 8 separate times. He apparently operated an entire compound that worked very similarly to a religious cult. Now, LaRouche had a bit of a strange history. He apparently started out as someone who was on the political left, or at least the old left, and then radically shifted to the far right. In 1974, he was yelling at his followers that they needed to believe a story that one of them had been brainwashed by the Soviet secret police, and anyone that said what he was saying was a hoax was subhuman, because he was trying to fight for the perpetuation of the human race, and that's what was at stake. The guy definitely suffered from some delusions of grandeur. He fancied himself at one point to be a Marxist theoretician, but then over the course of 10 years, like a chameleon, ended up baking himself into a conservative position. The Heritage Foundation reported on him, saying that he managed to attract a small but fanatical following to his conspiratorial view of the world. He started living in a heavily guarded estate near Leesburg in London County. The organization he had set up had properties that valued in the millions, and he had a great deal of control over the members of his organization, who were monikered the National Caucus of Labor Committee. One of the people who ultimately ended up falling away from the organization noted that it was a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour total immersion into the cult society. He also told the media that he didn't want to be identified because he feared retribution. So, all things considered, I think I'd actually like to do a more thorough breakdown of this organization, possibly with Telltale if he's willing. I don't know. We'll see. Over the years, his organization ended up spreading to other countries like Australia and Germany. Strangely enough, he apparently also managed to get a few nuclear scientists into alliances with his political group because he was willing to fight for a might makes right campaign of nuclear power advocacy, which is strange considering that one of the things that LaRouche's organization has actually argued is that climate change science is akin to genocide. Meanwhile, we have an organization that's arguing that they, in fact, would be okay with genocide as long as it was through a nuclear option. Anyway, point being, this is obviously what I would personally consider a bit of a nuts political group. And even though Lyndon LaRouche died this year, given the little bit of information I found on him, I have no issue speaking ill of the dead. This is, at the end of the day, not the most influential political group, but most certainly a dangerous one. And the fact that they're the ones behind the plant for the outrage that has been spreading across the media regarding AOC leads me to believe that this is an attempt to grab for power in some way. Not necessarily for themselves, after all, Lyndon LaRouche failed 8 times in an attempt to become president, but they most certainly have an agenda in keeping Trump in office, and making Democrats look like fools is most certainly one way to keep a Republican in office in perpetuity. Anyway, I didn't want to do a deep dive into him, the history, or the organization just yet. Think of this video as a primer of things to come. Also, I know that videos don't normally release on Saturday, and hi, I'm here talking to you guys now, but I wanted to go ahead and get this out early before a whole bunch of people started blowing the whistle on this thing. I don't normally stick my fingers in topical YouTube, but here we are. If you guys enjoyed the video, please do me a favor and hit the like button, share it with your friends, support me on Patreon if you want to. If you're already supporting me on Patreon, thank you very much. Credits and Patreon slides are at the end of the video as always, especially newly minted $20 and $50 patrons Aliakai and Lord Bleck. So check out your slides. Check out my merch store if you want to support me that way, or if you want to support me by getting a bunch of sex toys, because of course, the Atheist Lefty channel is a degenerate. Head to DDLG Playground in the description below, and please use coupon code Suris. And with that, I think that covers everything. Oh, yeah, hit the notification bell if you want to know whenever new videos come out. YouTube's subscription feed isn't exactly the best at notifying people about that. And with that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Insert end of video tagline here.